Okay, we are live. I'm here again at my wife's mother's house. We're hanging out here in the back. Noelle's out there recording her own stuff she's hearing. Got to talk with a really good friend today and just encourage one another. Sometimes when you encourage somebody, you get really, really encouraged. And I started making a list of all my friends and people I need to stay in touch with, and after I made that little spreadsheet, there's like about 180 people or more that I need to keep in touch with, and I'm like, man, there's not enough time in the day to stay in touch with everyone and try to build relationships. So I know God will help us choose our own, basically choose our friends for us and help us connect with the right people, but I always try to do my best to have a relationship with as many friends and people that God brought into my life. So this channel kind of helps us share our life. So when I do get to talk to you, I don't have to talk about my life and my stories and our adventures. But this thing I have right here that I want to share today is my Japan vision. A lot of times you might meet us and we'll talk about Japan and what Japan means to us. So I thought I'd make, some people would ask, why Japan? Why Japan out of all nations? And it all started off with a dream back in 2013 when God spoke to me and showed me that Japan would host the Olympics. And when I looked up when the Olympics are going to happen, and they mentioned 2020, so I kind of didn't do anything with that word. I kind of ignored it, just like any other prophetic word you get from the Lord. You don't know the meaning, you don't understand why you got it, but you kind of sometimes pray on it, and sometimes more meaning comes as you meditate His word and have another avenue to fellowship with Him around. And as I kept meditating on that word on and off, He'd bring it up to me and ask me, why aren't you doing anything about this? Why aren't you praying into it? And I would start thinking about Japan and praying about it, and then get discouraged, and then He'd remind me again after a while, and I just kept kind of taking stabs at it and trying to understand what it is and what it means. And the more I kept meditating on it, the more He was able to explain it to me and show me more and more dreams, more and more connections and understandings. And I was able to see why Japan, why 130 million people roughly don't know Jesus there. Why isn't that like the missionary, talks? Why isn't it always about Japan? It's always about poor countries or countries where, what about rich countries? Someone needs to get the rich, someone needs to get the wealthy, and I like to say God has enough poor, humble folks. He is also looking for some rich, humble folks to walk with Him and to obey Him and get to know Him. And the Japanese are one of the most wonderful people I've ever met, and I got to spend some time with them, and anyway, it's just really interesting how God orchestrates things if we just choose to follow Him, and He opens the way for us. And that dream, I think, was the catalyst that kind of launched it. I heard people talk about Japan, and my pastor mentioned Japan. Other people talked about it, but I never knew why. And spend enough time with God, and He started showing us that that is one of the most tender, precious people that God wants to reach and show His love to. And there's a lot of friends that we met, and missionaries and pastors who've been there, some for 20 or 40 years, who've been, even when General MacArthur went over there and he asked for missionaries to come, because he says, if you guys come, we will save this entire nation. These people are ready for the gospel. And about, I think, 1,000 missionaries or so answered the call, and we got to meet some of the original missionaries who went in there at that time. So anyway, it's really beautiful to see the work that people started, the work that they're doing, and that there's plenty of work to do as we spend time collaborating and resting with Him and knowing what He wants us to do and what our role is in Japan. What's our part? How do we play it? And He showed us the business arena is what we need to go in through. not through just teaching English, not through just going there as a missionary. And then we found out if you go in with a missionary visa, you can't work. You can't do anything. And I was like, well, that's exactly why he told us don't go there to be a missionary. Go there to do business. So God's preparing us to do business, and He's given us several areas and many prophetic words and many interesting dreams. And I have some things here written out. When I had my Japanese tutor, Shinzuke, as we were talking, he would just teach me some stuff, but mostly it was just me sharing why we love Japan and why we want to go there, and just basically making a friend, because I don't want to just sit there with a teacher. I want to hang out with a friend and learn in the process. And as we were just sharing, and I shared the vision of what God showed us and what God told us, and God told me, that's what you need to do. When you go to Japan, share the vision. Just like you did with your tutor, that's what you're supposed to do there. Is just share the vision of what my heart is for Japan and what God wants to do and how He wants to work with the people there. So, He's given us, like I said, locations. He's given us friends there, and just every day we step out and we have no clue what to do or where to go. We just have some general words from Him, but as we step out, it just all starts unfolding and working out, because we're just willing and obedient, and we're taking steps of faith as much as we know how. And and we were listening to a word from some of our Japanese friends when we were at this home church, and some of these young ladies, one has kids and the other one didn't, and they were like, you can't go wrong in Japan, you know? Whatever you guys do, God's saying you can't go wrong, you know? You're not going to make mistakes. It's always going to be Him. And I'm like, man, I feel like I made 100 mistakes, you know, and I feel like I've messed up so much, but God's using all these people there to tell us, like, no, literally, just go knock on doors. Go wherever you want. It's always going to be Him. The Lord's going to open all the doors for you and all the avenues. And just, it seems like love is opening all these doors for us, you know? Us loving people and being good with them and just sharing God's heart and loving them. It's just, that's... Anyway, I want to make another one, a beautiful video calling Love Wastefully. You know, where we love so much, it seems like waste, where we just pour it out beyond what anyone expects or asks. So, here's what I have written out as I shared, and the Lord kind of spoke to me. So, I had a vision after speaking with Shinzuke, my tutor, and after I shared my vision, and we were going through my resume, and I explained what the Tribe app meant, and bringing hope and life to Japan. Basically, so they can have and they can see with new eyes, new ways to see the country, you know, to make videos of hope, possibly with YouTube or social media or Netflix or something like that. Just bring in videos of hope of what Japan can be and what it has, and what that the greatest years are ahead of them still. And as I was in the bathroom after talking with Shizuke, I was in the bathroom, and then the vision was so clear that when I go to Japan, that my heart was communing with the Lord, and I was asking Him, well, what do I do? And God showed me that it was the exact same thing that I shared. And He said, make the vision plain and share it just like you did with Shinzuke. And when I do this, other people, you know, it will light them on fire. They'll get excited. The word will spread from person to person and bring those who want to be a part of this together, as well as lighting them on fire to burn for Jesus. And if they hit a wall in the natural, show them a deeper truth and a vision for their life. Could it be any easier? It felt so simple. And I just kept thanking Jesus just for helping me see how plain and simple it is to share God's heart and God's vision with people. It doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be confusing. It can be so simple, just sharing my heart with them and letting them see the love of the Father and what He wants to do with people in Japan. So this is part 1, and I got part 2 coming up when I go through it.